one, and the reason we're all here talking today, is cybersecurity. So Pearl as an organization is fundamental to infrastructure, and we recognized long ago that cybersecurity is a major component of this. You can't have a technology infrastructure today without also having focus in on cybersecurity. And we have really worked to identify more than a dozen key areas where we feel like our clients can take advantage of tools that are out there in the technology space today to help protect them against what we call threat actors. So some of the things, though, that we've been running up against as we started to build out more in this area of our business within the small business groups is that there's a couple of myths that exist, and these are some of the basic ones, right? Where folks kind of talk to us and say, "Oh, well, we're not out there getting targeted by these threat actors. We're too small. Why would they want to mess with us?" It's a fact that there are folks outside of the country, or maybe even inside the country, that all they do for their entire work week is figure out ways to identify different organizations, vulnerabilities that exist, the people that are there that maybe have control over funds and resources and things like that. And their goal is to simply break through whatever barriers you put in place. So the idea that you're not big enough to be targeted doesn't really hold true any longer. It's one of those things where everyone needs to consider themselves a target for these threat actors. We also find that a lot of folks don't want to deal with the complexities that get put into place around cybersecurity. So if you think about things like multi-factor authentication and password policies and training for your users, those things seem like a hassle. But the reality is that if you're not taking a posture of defense against these threat actors, you could find yourself in a situation where you fall victim to a phishing attack, which either compromises your credentials and exposes you to some sort of theft, or somebody's just trying to be malicious and is going to come in there and encrypt all of your data and then force you to pay some sort of ransom to get it back. There's so many different potential ways that you as a small business could be impacted by these attacks. So the traditional things that have always been in place, and Pearl's done these for many, many years. We've been around for over 20 years, putting things like antivirus and firewalls in place and really trying to step up those basics. But over the last couple of years, we've recognized that those basics are great and are absolutely part of the story, but there is so much more that's out there today that, quite frankly, years ago wasn't really accessible to the small business, right? The big corporations had these tool sets that required teams of people to deliver. Well, managed services providers now have access to those types of tool sets, and we felt like it was incumbent upon us to make sure that we evaluated and determined what was going to be useful to our clients going forward, and have put together a series of these tools that we're going to be bringing to market this year. And one of those tools is a product called ID Agent, which focuses a lot on the dark web. So thus why we brought Samantha Yip into this call today. She has got some great information that she wants to share with everybody here on the call. And I'm going to turn it over to her now. And then after we get done listening to her for a little bit to educate us and make us all a little bit smarter about the dark web, we're going to come back and talk a little bit about an offering that I have for everybody around getting a little more education around your domain. So let me flip over to the next slide here. And Samantha, I will go ahead and turn it over to you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Floyd. Thank you for taking some time with us today, everyone. So really what I'm going to go through is your employees' login credentials and are they in the dark web, and what exactly the dark web is. So we'll go over how does this happen and how does this put your business at risk, along with how can we minimize or mitigate these risks, of course, with Pearl Solutions help. Next slide, please, Floyd. Here's a little data from from IBM's breach report in 2020, and this is really where you're seeing where how all the breaches are happening. And you'll see here that the highest amount of breaches and what's associated with those breaches are really compromised credentials here. So compromised credentials, and I would say phishing, are kind of the top reasons that breaches are really occurring, because we're able to through phishing emails and phishing text messages, those type of things, that's when bad actors are able to steal our personal information. And really what the dark web is, it's a huge marketplace for stolen data and personal information. So after a data breach, a hacking incident, or a phishing attack on a business, personal information is often bought and sold on the dark web by identity thieves looking to make money off your good name, and any number of this information and any other number of information associated with you. So next slide, please. And here is pretty much a great picture of, this really paints a great picture for you of what exactly we use on a daily basis just for work. You'll see here there's a lot of third-party applications that we use on a daily basis. So these are all these applications require most likely a work email and a password to be able to log in. And with that, we know that our users are using weak passwords. They're either reusing passwords or they're using a very slight variation of those passwords to be able to get into these third-party applications that they need for work. So obviously Office 365, that's something very common. Most of us are using that right now, probably, Office 365 or G Suite. And just think about the amount of information that they will have access to. Really, your credentials are the keys to your business, right? They can just walk in the front door. And the information with the banking. We've done several of these type of webinars in the past, and we've looked at some information that's exposed in the dark web. And there are times when I've sat there with a customer and shown them what we were able to find in the dark web, and they realized that their banking information, their company banking information from a past employee, was exposed in the dark web. So they actually had to leave the meeting to go ahead and change that password immediately and make sure that that user can no longer get into the company bank account that had significant amount of a balance. Next slide, please, Floyd. Here are some screenshots of what exactly the dark web. The dark web is real, so things are being sold. Your information, your personal information, your company information are being sold. This is a snapshot of IDs that are being sold, and just take a look at the price over there. It's relatively inexpensive to be able to purchase this information in the dark web. Next slide, Lloyd. Here's another shot in the dark web. This is this you can see is a credit card dump that is being sold, again at a relatively low price for this credit card information. It actually gives you instructions for billing address when you're using verified credit card numbers. So it is a marketplace. This is why they're stealing your information. This is what motivates them to actually go ahead and use phishing attempts and get your exposed credentials, because they want to be able to sell this. This is how they make money. Sorry, Floyd.
I was going to say that's a pretty good deal right there. $11. I mean, my gosh.
It is. Here you'll see this is a credit card clone sale here, and it really works kind of like an Amazon marketplace. You see that there's actually great reviews for this particular service that they're adding for this company. So it works very much like the surface web that we use really with Amazon Marketplace. Next slide, please.
There you go.
Thank you. Here you have a sale of U.S. business accounts, And it also gives the buyer the instructions to search for social security numbers. So it gives you full instructions on how to go about using that. This is just not uncommon. And if you take a look at the price here, it's pretty affordable. I mean, at 29.30 euros, you're looking at.
Yeah, I mean, if I can interject too there, I mean, at Pearl over the years, we've seen customers become victim of phishing attacks, right? And the ability and the patience that these threat actors are coming in with is mind-boggling. I mean, they will simply sit on someone's account and observe emails that are coming in and out and identify the players within an organization, and they're not even impacting the organization at that point. They're just collecting information. And you think to yourself, man, why are these guys so interested in it? Well, for them, the ability to see an opportunity and create some sort of ACH transfer out of your accounts is a very real opportunity, and the money is a big deal to them over there. So the simple fact is this stuff happens, and I've never seen this side of it myself, the dark side, but I have seen the results on our side, and I think it's an important thing to note that it's not an imaginary thing, and it can absolutely be impactful to you and your business.
Absolutely. Just to add to Floyd's point here, the average, I believe, a threat actor sits in your network when they do have your information to basically spy on you is about 190 days. That's a lot of damage and a lot of communication that they're able to take a look at just to see who that right person is, to be able to attempt a very social engineered phishing attempt to be able to get information like this banking information that we see on the slide.
Ready for the next one?
Sorry, next. Yeah, next slide.
Okay.
Here's just a snapshot of how easy it is for someone to find leaked databases. So you hear in the news there were a lot of databases and information within those databases, usually a lot of credentials, a lot of personal information in those databases that are leaked. And this is just someone in a forum that is asking for help on downloading a leaked database. And obviously, here's the instructions of how to get that leaked database.
It's crazy.
It is crazy. And here you'll see a slide here. They are selling databases, business databases of investors, and a bunch of millions of records for this particular database. And here you'll see that businesses are a common target for criminals. Really, they feel they're not harming anyone if they're actually just taking business data. Or they're taking specific business data. It's kind of the overall kind of feeling that those criminals do have, that they're taking from big business corporations. They're not actually hurting the individual. But obviously, we know that that's not the case, right? A lot of the information that's in there, employee information, that can be used for identity theft. Next slide. Here again, this is another snapshot of how easy it is to purchase a data dump of a large database here. And you'll see again those, they have ratings right on the side of it there, very much just like Amazon, right? They want repeat business, so they want the information that the other threat actors are purchasing to be usable. So this information usually is tested. They do test some of this information, and they do sell it because they want repeat purchases for the next database.
They've even got a refund policy. How thoughtful.
They do, yes. And I don't know if I have a slide here, but I've also seen some slides with some holiday specials. So during Christmas time, they'll even run a holiday special, and they'll sell out of that. So everything that we do up here, just slightly different, obviously, in the dark web.
I love this one.
Right here, you'll see that this one is out of stock. It was so popular that it is out of stock for this list of California business owners with high credit scores. And you'll see that anytime you see full with a Z at the end, that means that there is enough information, there's enough personal information that you can commit identity theft with. Next slide. And I know in the beginning of us starting to work from home, we had read a lot about and heard a lot of issues regarding Zoom and the Zoom bombers that were coming into the Zoom meetings. And Zoom got a really bad rep for that. And really, it wasn't necessarily all of Zoom's fault. A lot of that was information and credentials, so emails and passwords from Zoom accounts that actually worked that were being sold. And they were being sold in the dark web. So that's really how a lot of those Zoom bombers were able to attack specific Zoom accounts that we heard on the news. Next slide. So I love this slide right here. Here you pretty much see a job posting for a software designer or system engineer in the dark web. And this looks like exactly a job post that we might actually see on Indeed or LinkedIn. And this is a snapshot of what they're looking for. So they want someone with 10 years of experience, and their advertised salary is $63,000 a month. So their first year salary is looking like $762,000. Obviously, it will increase after 2 years based upon performance reviews and things like that. So it looks very, outside of the salary, it looks very normal to all the jobs that we see here. Obviously, we're not threat actors like they're hunting for right now, but this is a real business, right? So we really have to think, if they're earning $63,000 a month, really, what's the return? They need to be able to give some sort of ROI back to the company. So that ROI is really dependent on how much information they could steal from us, either personal information or any of our credentials that we use on a daily basis to get into third-party websites and obviously internal local applications as well. Next slide here. So really, I've given you a lot of snapshots of a lot of bad things that can happen in the dark web with the information that they steal from us. So, how do we protect our employees? How do we protect our organization? And I'm not going to go through the full list here, but I do want to point out there are a couple of things that I do want to highlight. One of them is number 8, keeping an eye on the bad guys. So one way of doing this is being very proactive and monitoring our organization's domain and email, and maybe even IP address in the dark web. So Pro Solutions has that service for you that they're able to do. And I always like to compare monitoring the dark web just like a home alarm system. You want to know who has the information, the keys to break into your home, right? Break into your organization. And if you do know that they have a copy of your key, they have that password to be able to get in, or they even have personal information that they can use to use as identity theft for anyone in the organization. It's good to know beforehand. And once you have that information, you're able to do something about that. You're able to go ahead and change your password. You're able to put things in place to prevent any incident from happening. Of course, nothing is 100%, but this is a very good step of alerting everyone from the organization of information that's exposed out there as well. And Floyd had mentioned two-factor authentication as well as another barrier to put in place to prevent any threat actors. So this is definitely an added extra layer of security for just to keep your data safe and just to make sure that people who are actually logging in, they are who they say they are. And I think the last one here is protecting those passwords. I mentioned earlier that we like to reuse passwords very often because there are so many different applications that we need to log in on a daily basis just to kind of get our work done. So it's really hard to come up with different and unique passwords for, maybe 9 different applications we need. So we use either the exact same passwords, because it's easy for us to remember, or we use a very slight variation of that easy password that we like to use across all of the other applications. So, something you really need to take a look at not doing that, having unique passwords for every single one of the applications that we use for work, and look at how to create those safe passwords and manage those passwords. And we can go to the next slide. So I've touched a little bit about this in the previous slide of what Pro Solutions can do, what ID Agent can help you with. We do provide a service that allows for 24/7 monitoring of those exposed credentials associated with your business domain. We have a team that is constantly looking in the dark web. Anytime we do pull that information, you are alerted. Pro Solutions is alerted, and they'll be able to help you kind of mitigate those alerts. So in that way, it would help with proactively preventing any issues from occurring with those exposed credentials. So like I mentioned, changing your passwords and implementing some processes in place to prevent threat actors using that exposed information. And I think the last point is passwords. I can't emphasize this enough. Not reusing passwords and having some sort of process in place to create strong passwords, to create strong unique passwords for all of your applications, and ideally different passwords for every single one of them.
Not an easy thing to do, but it's definitely it definitely pays for itself really quickly when it comes to the password policies that we need to have in place and the multi-factor authentication. I couldn't agree more there. I'll throw out some stats from our experience with the ID Agent stuff. So we definitely identified the dark web scanning as a necessary part of the solution suite that we wanted to bring to our clients, because I personally have seen emails come to me from clients, especially if your domain name has been around for more than a quick minute. There's a really good chance that someone's credentials from your domain exists on the dark web and in these databases that Samantha's been talking about through ID Agent. So I think what is the top one I saw? So there was one of our clients that has a domain name that literally they got on day one. It's an amazing domain name. So we went ahead and as we signed them up and we got them plugged into the ID Agent service. And I think there was over 900 hits on their first scan. And the important thing to note is on these scans, and this is why we're on this part of the discussion here, is that everybody that's on this call today, if you would like, just reply back to the invite and let us know. But we want to offer you a free one-time scan of a single domain, so your single URL. So in other words, I would scan pearlsolves.com, and the ID Agent tool set is going to give me back a detailed set of information of all the hits that exist. And what I like to do with that is really take a look at each one of the accounts that exists inside of that report and understand, okay, is this an active user? If it's not, then it's something that I need to make sure is disabled in my back end. If it's an active user and the password listed is one that user is currently taking in, is part of their world, then that user needs to go through and make a password change. And what we find when we talk to clients is that not only is that password that shows up inside of this result set something that's being used as part of their organization, it's also someone's password that they were using with their personal bank, or they were using it, to log into some other website. And the key there is to understand that that password should not be used going forward at all. So it's really an awareness piece. And then as you're part of the ongoing solution and as part of the service going on, every time that someone from your domain name gets a hit in these databases, we get notified, and then we reach out and make sure that credential that was compromised, again, that there's an awareness around is the login ID and the username active, and is the password that's listed something that needs to be changed. So that's really how we how we approach that with the dark web scanning. And did want to offer that out to everybody here. So if it is something that you want us to take advantage of and get you a report and then have a conversation around it, I would love to do that for everybody that's on the call today. Just reply back to that and let us know, and we can put that on the schedule. And then really, I would like to open it up, and I don't know if there's an easy way to do this, Cindy, but if anybody has any questions or wants to have any discussions, I know this is a lot of information, and it's definitely been helpful to me. I love listening to Samantha, and she's brought a lot of value to us as an organization. But I'd like to open it up and see if anyone has any questions. You can either type it into the chat or just let us know and we can unmute you. I think you're actually able to unmute yourself. So if anybody has any questions or wants to talk through any more of this, now's a great time to do that. We've got some time left on the clock here. Don't everybody jump in at once. So it looks like Tiffany asked, what do you suggest for passwords? Are we talking as far as complexity or passphrases?
I was just asking in regards to like a password keeper. Like I have a spreadsheet just because I have over like 50 logins. And to me, honestly, though, a sticky note is safer from somebody who's trying to hack me on the dark web than a spreadsheet, because someone can hack in and read that. So I understand the idea behind no sticky notes, but at the same time, that's probably safer than a spreadsheet. So
the problem with sticky notes is well, at least for me anyway, is that I've got a home office and an office and a mobile office, and I'll always end up needing a password that I don't have in front of me. So actually, it's a great question, Tiffany, and that's actually one of the final products in my solution suite that we're putting together right now. So we're evaluating a couple of different options. So I would give you a stay tuned item there, but there's several of them out on the market, and that's really another piece of the puzzle that we're finalizing right now and should be under contract here within the next couple of weeks and be able to present that as well. But I agree. So the ability to have a single repository where you have a master two-factor authentication key that gives you access to that password set is super helpful. And I think that the other added bonus is that a lot of these password managers will create a complex password for you as part of the service, and you do not have to remember that complex password. So not only is it a very difficult password to brute force attack, it's going to be unique to every single service that you've got, but doesn't require you to constantly write them all down on sticky notes and post them on your monitor.
Great, thanks.
So. Another question was, how do we have access to what is on the dark web? So I personally have not attempted the task of accessing that. Samantha, I know we kind of joked about this the other day. I can't remember what your answer to that question was, because it's one you get quite often.
Yes. So I don't advise people to attempt to access the dark web, and the reason I don't do that is, you don't need any special permission to access the deep or the dark web. But however, you do need to use a Tor browser, and this should only be done if you're using a VPN or some sort of encrypted tunnel. So it's not something that I recommend, and that's why we have this service where I already have a team that has these technical things in the back end to be able to go into the dark web, and they monitor the dark web 24/7 for domains that we do this monitoring service for. So it's definitely not something that I recommend for people to go ahead and access. And maybe my thing is, let's stay within the surface web and what we use the web now, and the deep and the dark web it's really not recommended to go there. But that being said, you don't need special permission. You just need a Tor browser and a VPN encrypted tunnel. I highly suggest not doing that.
And I think as I read that question, Dee Dee's probably asking from the standpoint of, how is your team getting access to that? I know Dee Dee, and I don't think she would be out there with a Tor browser running around. But yeah, that's probably, as I read that, I'm like, it's probably more like, understanding that your professionals are scanning through that, and you've written your own software on the back end to go out and pull down the information that's readily available on that dark web.
Yes, absolutely. We have a team. We do have a team. We have written software that looks for the associated domain information, that would, any exposed information, whether that be exposed credentials and passwords, as well as personal identifiable information. That's being looked at. So we have a software that runs, and also a group of people that are in the dark web. And that's kind of how we get some of these fun slides from a good view of what is in the dark web.
Exactly. So Jackie had a follow-up question, and Jackie, yes, I can absolutely send you a list of all the security suite features that we're working on. It is password management is one of them. The dark web scanning is one that we've already rolled out. We've got a what's called a managed detect and response product that we've partnered with, MDR. So it's kind of, think of it as a next generation antivirus solution. And then we've got a lot of the basics that are part of our normal story, where we think about firewalls, we think about backups, we think about password policies, getting into multi-factor authentication. So there's a lot there. And like I said earlier, we've identified over a dozen areas that we are working to focus in on for our clients in an effort, because I think the comment that I love people make is like, oh, well, I'm not vulnerable, and that'll never happen, things like that. And most folks will look at you and say, it's not if, but when it comes to cybersecurity. I mean, there's phishing attempts happening all the time. And I think everybody here can agree. I mean, I think, phone, and it's not just phishing through emails, it's vishing. So it's voice phishing, where they're calling up and looking for access. I talked to a client the other day that, that essentially is a very, smart individual, but you get busy, you're working down in your normal day to day, and then all of a sudden a call comes in or something happens that catches you off guard. And before you know it, you're delivering information that is absolutely not essential to that person's ability to help you with whatever it is they say they're going to help you with. And that's when, you need to turn around and start changing passwords and do your best to protect yourself against that. So, Ray, great question. Ray asks, how would we suggest that we monitor the password care that our employees have or don't have? Easy to tell everyone, but how can we make sure we're practicing safe passwording? So Ray, I can actually help you out with that. So we've got a report that we run internally for our clients that goes out and can actually give you a good understanding of the last time someone's changed their password. And then we can also go through and ensure that the complexity is where it needs to be. And we absolutely have been pressing forward with multi-factor authentication and ensuring that customers are doing their best to protect against some third-party company coming in there. So Ray, I'm going to take a note and circle back with you and John, and we can talk a little bit more about that later on this week or early next, if that's okay. Dee Dee did have one other question follow up. Said the VPN used allow our employees' homework to access, make us more vulnerable to hackers. So the exposure from an SSL VPN connection is absolutely something to think about. If you think about that home user's environment and what their system looks like that they're using to get into your internal network, a VPN is in fact an encrypted tunnel from the source to the destination. So what we do encourage folks to do is, if you've got remote users, from an organizational standpoint, is to provide them with the hardware that they're going to be using to access your corporate network from a remote location. So I like SSL VPN tunnels, much better solution than years ago where we had just simply opened up remote desktop and things like that through a firewall. SSL VPN is super critical, but I generally will also recommend that the hardware components that the users are taking home with them are corporate pieces of equipment that are also joined to your domain, adhere to your domain policies, and then also have some sort of remote monitoring agent that we provide from Pearl to make sure that that system that they're using to access your network is as protected as we can possibly be. So, you know, we can't fully control their home environment, but we can certainly control the devices that they're using to access your network from that remote location. Okay. All right, well, that looks like that is all the questions that we had. I do really appreciate everybody taking some time. Like I'd mentioned earlier, I know there's a lot going on out there. There's a lot of information that folks want to, you know, that we need to be consuming. It's a little overwhelming at times. So I truly appreciate you guys taking some time and spending it with us today. Never hesitate to reach out and ask us for input around questions and concerns you have around cybersecurity. It's a very real piece of what every one of us has to deal with today as part of the technology that we use to do work and to exist as part of as part of our businesses. So let us know what else we can do to help. We'll be following up after this and posting some more information about what we talked about today. And then moving forward, I think next month we're looking at putting together a webinar for that MDR product that I mentioned earlier, which is also a really great tool for folks to take advantage of. So again, if you have any follow-up questions, please let us know. But otherwise, that's what we had for you today. So I appreciate everybody taking some time, and thank you very much for attending.